Hi, I'm Brian Dunn, and welcome to the most important podcast ever. What makes it so important? It's not about me, it's about you. This podcast is about ordinary people doing extraordinary things, the moments of resilience, the lessons learned, and the small acts that made a big difference. From retail floors to boardrooms, we'll share the untold stories that shape lives and careers. This week, our guest is Kenny Miller. I got a chance to spend a little time with Kenny on the phone this week and get reacquainted. And I wrote some things down, so I want to share them with you now. Today's guest is someone whose story has it all: courage, risk, resilience, and the kind of perspective that you can only earn the hard way. I first met Kenny Miller at Best Buy back when life looked a lot different for both of us. In May of 2010, the Friday before Memorial Day, Kenny got news that would change everything: a cancer diagnosis. What followed was a heroic 2 year battle with a chest tumor, a fight that tested his body, his mind, and his spirit. He came out the other side not just alive, but transformed. Kenny's story is about more than survival. It's about what happens when you face the unthinkable, change your priorities, and refuse to play it safe. This is Kenny Miller. Hi, Kenny. How are you?
That was a pretty darn good introduction.
I know. Good night, folks. Thanks.
Yeah, it
I,
covered
uh,
pretty much all of it.
I, uh, I meant every single word of it, and I
Well, I
wrote it
appreciate
yesterday.
it.
We talked, and our conversation yesterday I found to be very inspiring. Kenny, you and
Yeah,
I
so
connected at Best Buy. What do you remember about those early days, and what were you focused on back then?
back when we had first connected, I was originally a supervisor. Actually, I think at that time I was doing. It's kind of a blur because it is so long ago. But I was either a home theater supervisor or I was a Best Buy Mobile. Actually, back when the Best Buy Mobile managers were a thing,
Yeah.
and I kind of bounced between a couple stores on the east end of Long Island, and I had done some. Like rollout initiatives in like Paramus, New Jersey, with some of the district staff, and that's kind of how I had gotten acquainted with a lot of not acquainted. I'd met a lot of other people in the district staff, and yeah, but I was all at the store level at that point.
And that was those were fast and furious days,
Oh
weren't
yeah,
they? And all
yeah,
those initiatives you were involved with were all very important and super consuming, I'm sure.
oh yeah.
And
I mean, I the mobile stuff was super fun because it was super new, and it was cool to be a part of that like rollout stuff.
yeah, and it was like a worldwide revolution, wasn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Um, and it has really great things about it and really bad things about it, but that's a different episode.
Sure.
Um, so maybe you can take us back, Kenny, to the Friday before Memorial Day, where things got complicated.
Yeah, so leading up to the Friday before Memorial Day, I'd literally been working. I was working at the store in Riverhead, New York, and I was very active when I was younger. Surfed a lot, mountain biked a lot, and I had remembered. I think it was Wednesdays at that time. Me and a couple buddies, we'd always surf in the morning, and then we'd go mountain biking right after we'd surf. So we'd get up, we'd get out super early, and I remember doing that. And then when I was just short of breath, and I thought I had I was cold. I had a cold, and went to go meet with my buddies after surfing to go mountain biking. I got maybe a mile in, and I was like, you know what, guys, I'm going to take off. I'm not feeling good. And just out of normal trying to take care of myself, went to the doctor, and the doctor said, yeah, you have an upper respiratory infection. It's not that uncommon. So I'm sorry, that was the Wednesday before. That week passed, I hadn't gotten better. I remember I was at work that Wednesday or Thursday, and I just wasn't feeling too hot. Went back to a doctor, and the short of a long story is after um, sonogram, an X-ray, and then essentially a CAT scan, I had found out that Friday, probably like 6 or 7 o'clock at night, that I had a large tumor in my chest.
How old are you then, Kenny?
22. I was 22 when that happened.
So that's the beginning of a 2-year
Yeah.
battle.
My mother will love that
Excuse
I'm
me.
saying this because she remembers this more than anything. We were kind of like, well, what do we do? Like it's Friday before Memorial Day weekend. And the doctor said to us, try to enjoy the weekend. And we were like, well, might be
Yeah.
a little difficult.
Yeah. Enjoy the weekend while you have, and good luck with that cancer in your chest.
Yeah. It was a little bit of a like, okay,
Wow. As you think back on it, what were some of the roughest moments? That's certainly a tough moment you just laid out for me.
So that at that point we were pretty sure I had cancer, but it hadn't been like officially official, right? Like I had to do biopsies. I'm sure are familiar with how all that works.
Yeah.
So I had done a biopsy, and within a couple weeks, I had pretty much been told I had cancer for sure. That day was definitely like probably the hardest of the beginning, mainly because it was real. Before it was like, well, it's bad, something's gonna have to happen, but it was real then because obviously I was diagnosed with cancer. That
I'm
was definitely
sure,
one of the hardest.
so sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'm sure going into that day when you got your diagnosis, I'm sure you already had thought through all the possible outcomes. And did you think it was not good?
Yeah, I mean, after having seen the X-ray and being explained what I was looking at, I knew that I was probably in for an uphill battle and that it was going to be pretty difficult. You and I have talked at short length, I should say, about I'm a car guy. I've been a car guy since forever, and I remember the first thing I did after I got diagnosed with cancer was I was trying to like process everything. And what I did was I got in my car and I drove to Montauk Point, which you don't have to be from New York to know where Montauk Point is. It's the farthest you can get. And I just took a ride by myself. I turned off my phone. I didn't talk to anybody. Told my parents I'd be all right. Give me some time to process. And I went for a nice long drive.
To get your head right and to
Yeah,
think
for
through.
sure.
And when you came back from that drive, was your approach clearer to you?
Yeah, for sure. I kind of had at that point decided, well, it's uh, what am I going to do? I'm not going to sit here and cry. I'm going to figure it out and we're going to go for it. And ironically, it wasn't a week after that my lung collapsed at home and I was rushed to the emergency room and I was literally in the ICU and I don't remember the next almost 10 days because I got it. It basically just happened so fast. My mom makes the now joke that it was from cold to cancer in 3 weeks because it came on that hard and that fast.
Wow. So for 10 days, it's just kind of a blur, or were you
Yeah,
literally
so
out
I
of it?
was I was completely out of it. I don't want to say I was in a medically induced coma because I wasn't necessarily, but I was sedated and basically I had a really high heart rate and I had fluid kind of becoming an issue around my heart and um, at that point we hadn't even literally come up with a game plan of chemo or anything. It was that had happened so rapidly and so fast that all that stuff was literally decided almost for me while I was out of it. When I woke up and kind of knew where I was at, I had already started chemo. I didn't even know. I woke up and they're like, "Hey, just so you know, you started chemo."
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Uh, who or what kept you going? Did it ever feel impossible?
I'd say there was times it did. Um, my parents were huge. My family in general was amazing. I come from a pretty good sized family and we're very close. Um, I'm really close with my brothers and my family in general. I mean I was talking to you yesterday or the day before. I still to this day my mother lives 1,000 miles away. I talk to her every single day, and I make it a point to make sure I talk to my parents every day. But I would say to answer the question, yeah, I mean there was days where it was super super tough but my parents were a big, big, big part of it. I think the days that were tougher, and this is, we didn't really talk about this, but my chemotherapy was inpatient. I was so sick and it was so dangerous, the level of chemotherapy that I was getting, that I did not do outpatient procedures. I literally lived in the hospital for 2 weeks at a clip, and I got chemotherapy. I got pumped full of fluids, and I kind of was like waited until I went home, and that's how mine was. So the mental game for me was more being stuck in a hospital, and unfortunately, hospitals with people doing chemo, especially when you're a 22-year-old young man, it's not a great atmosphere.
It's a pretty small peer group too.
For sure, for sure.
So you were being for how many rounds did you do?
So I did. I'm gonna draw a blank. It was 5 or 6 total. Over the course of a year, I did enough chemotherapy to shrink the tumor that my surgeon, my diff separate from my oncologist, felt confident in operating. Just to give you like the basics of it, I had a big tumor in my chest. It's called a mediastinal germ cell tumor, and it was wrapped in and around every vital organ in my chest. Obviously, my lung had collapsed. It was actually the problematic thing, and we can get into it as I went into surgery, was it had grown into the top of my vena cava. So there was concerns that I was going to be more terminal because of that. And they didn't know that until they actually did the surgery. But we did chemo for a year, then I did my surgery, and then I did chemo again after the surgery.
I see. So the chemo was really to shrink it so the surgeon could get at it.
Yeah, the surgeons basically said if they tried to crack me open and remove it the way it was, there was no chance that I would survive. That it would just go through my body, and that would be it.
And so this goes on. This is over the course of a year, 2 years?
Correct. Yeah. The first year, I was sick for approximately 2 years, but the first year was basically becoming sick, figuring out a game plan, starting chemo, and doing chemo repetitively over those times. I remember my oncologist's name's Dr. Wu. He told me, like, I'm going to give you the chemo that could kill a 50-year-old man. He's like, you're young, you're in good shape. This is how we do it, or we don't do it. Like that was pretty much what he told me. So they kept a pretty close eye on me. I mean, I'm not exactly my lightest right now, but going through chemo, I weighed about 125, 130 pounds. I was a stick figure. It was pretty wild.
What was a healthy weight for you then before that?
Probably like 180, 185.
So you lost all that weight?
Yeah, I have pictures of me I remember my brother wanted to get me out of the house. My brother actually worked at Best Buy, ironically, also.
Cool.
And my brother was like, I got to get you out of the house. You got to do something. I actually have pictures of him and my friend Jamie carrying me down a street to go get ice cream. Like I couldn't support my own weight. I would literally have my hands around their shoulders. And it was wild. I couldn't make it up and down a flight of stairs by myself. Because it just, the chemo attacks everything. I mean, you know how it works. And it works, but it also has adverse effects, obviously.
Well, it kills everything, right?
Absolutely.
And then wow, that's amazing. So how long were you out of circulation, out of work? 2 years?
Yeah, about 2 years, maybe a little less, but somewhere around there. Yeah.
Okay. So you get through it.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to just gloss over it because
No.
that's a 2-hour story right there.
Sure.
You get through it, and does the doctor say, you got a clean bill, Kenny, here we go?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I was obviously very ill. They were doing checkups every 3 months, then every 6 months, then every year. And then basically told me after 10 years that you're in a pretty good spot if you don't have any, things flare up. But yeah, I mean, I didn't have too much to hold me back. The surgery was the most aggressive thing because obviously they had to cut me open and I had to be careful about physical activities and stuff like that. But I was able to pretty much live a pretty normal life after that.
So then after all that, do you have a sense that you're a changed person, or are you
Probably
just
not right
moving
away.
along?
Yeah,
Yep.
probably not right away. I mean, I hate to say it, but when you're 23, I was 23 at that time. I was just focused on getting out of the house, getting out of the hospital, kind of getting my life back, getting back to work. I mean, being out of work for that long. Fortunately, I lived at home. during all this, and I didn't have a lot of bills, so I was able to kind of support myself still. Um, but yeah, I mean, definitely a sense of like trying to get my life back a little bit, you know.
And what was going back to work like for you?
It
You
was
went
actually
back to Best
really,
Buy, right? You went back
yeah,
to
I
Best
did.
Buy.
I went back to Best Buy, and it was, I mean, you remember those years. The camaraderie at Best Buy was unbelievable. I mean, some of my best memories and some of like lifelong friends I still have to this day are from people that I met at Best Buy. So going back was really good. It felt good. I mean, the company was great to me in the sense that I didn't get my exact job back, but I did get a same level job. Ultimately, I went to a different store. And yeah, it was great. I ended up doing district level Magnolia stuff, which I loved. I was like really enjoying that, but it was nice to get back for sure and just get back to some normalcy.
I remember talking to you at the closer to the front end of your illness,
Yeah. Yep.
and
Yep.
I was struck by how positive you were.
Yeah.
I really was. I mean, I talked to people about it after. It was
Yeah. I would say
very,
that's a huge, like anybody who's watching this, whoever has anybody who's a family member that might have cancer or themselves. I mean, I am such a huge proponent of like the positive mental attitude that you have through the whole thing. I mean, you can't, if you sit there and you're sitting there in a dark place, and you're going to have that happen for sure. But I wholeheartedly believe that like being positive is like just as important as taking the chemo or whatever medicine or whatever treatment. I think it's so important.
I couldn't agree more. Um, so you went back to Best Buy,
Yep.
and then I believe you were recruited for a district manager role at Sleepy's.
Correct. Yeah. So Sleepy's the mattress company. I had a friend actually from the Best Buy side of things who ended up going there and said, "Hey, this is a cool opportunity. Like you should check this out." And I did. And what was even cooler was the people at Best Buy that I had looked up to were supportive, and they were, you know, excited for me to kind of grow. And during that time, I was kind of doing some side business stuff, which you and I had talked about. And it was just a really good opportunity. Obviously, there's an opportunity to make more money, which is always great. And I had an opportunity to kind of pursue other endeavors that I wanted to do at the same time.
And then, as you told me, you reminded me yesterday, a mattress firm came along and bought Sleepy's,
Yeah.
and
So mattress.
that provided a
Okay.
pretty big strategic inflection point for you, didn't it?
Yeah, massively. So I had always been in landscaping, and I mean, I'd always, you know, as a kid, you push mow lawns, you making some side money. I did that through a lot of my Best Buy career, minus the time when I was like a manager and stuff like that. And I, at that time, had kind of grown my business and decided that, hey, you know what, I'm going to make a leap. And I had been with Sleepy's for a little while, and I said, I actually talked to my now wife, and I said, I think I'm going to make a leap, and I'm gonna try to pursue this and see if there's anything there. I just didn't want to regret it later in life. So the short of it is I bought a Caterpillar machine, sign and drive. Probably the stupidest thing I ever did, but I knew that I needed to get a bigger piece of equipment to get some of these bigger projects and be able to bid them. And that I got it delivered on my birthday, July 8th of my birthday. The machine got delivered, and 2 days later, I got laid off from mattress firm. Literally 2 days.
So you got basically a mortgage on the equipment
And a mortgage.
and a mortgage
Yeah, yeah.
and no job.
Yeah, so that
So
was the big like oh crap moment for sure.
and do you remember the moment where you said, I'm going all in on this?
Yeah, so I remember kind of talking to my father about it, and I was like, hey, you know, I'm in kind of a bad spot, and for anybody who might watch this that knows my father's the greatest man ever, and I learned everything I know from him, but he is not a hold your hand through the hard stuff kind of guy. And I remember basically my now wife was there, and I was like, maybe they'll lend me some money. And I remember the short of it was I asked my father if he'd lend me some money, and he was like, you know, kind of, you figured out how you get yourself into this, get yourself out. And you know, you kind of have that moment of realization, like, all right, there's nobody to bail me out of this. Sink or swim, you know, that's it. You're either gonna make it work or you're gonna lose everything. So I almost used like fire. Well, I didn't almost. I did. I used that fire to really like push and push and try to do whatever I could to make any kind of money to pay my bills and pay for that machine and kind of continue to grow and do anything.
Kenny, what made you, because you certainly could have gone the safe route. You
Sure.
certainly could have found another job with all your experience and your many talents, but you thought, nope, I'm going to go for this. I'm going to build my business, my dream. I'm going to take this side hustle and make it strong.
Yeah, I think just life experience, honestly, like just everything that I had gone through. Um, the bigger thing I would say is like always remembering, like I don't want to regret not trying to do this, And I always appreciated like entrepreneurship in general. Like I remember I used to detail cars and I would obviously mow lawns, and I always had that like drive to do something bigger than, not that I didn't enjoy the other things that I did, but do something bigger that I created and that like I could put my stamp on and say that was mine.
Right.
So probably just that, wanting to like prove to myself that I could do it.
And before we leave this, can you share what you're comfortable sharing about what your business looks like today?
Yeah, so we're a full service landscaping company. We do tick and mosquito spraying, obviously maintenance projects, masonry. We have about 15 to 16 employees at the height of our season, trying to kind of keep the scale reasonable because bills are a thing. Yeah, I mean, without getting too into detail, we do great, and I'm very pleased to be where we're at.
You've built a multi-million dollar business.
Yeah, for sure, for
I
sure.
mean, that's,
Yeah,
dude, that's amazing. That's
it
fantastic.
is crazy to think. Sometimes you get caught up in the rat race, like where you're
Yeah.
like chasing jobs and employees and bills and stuff. And sometimes it's funny hearing you say that. It's kind of like, man, yeah, you're right. Like I, that's where we're at. Yeah,
When we got off the phone, I uh, I was just thinking about the courage it to take that chance and then to see it grow, provide income for people,
sure.
and it's really cool, Kenny. And if anybody ever deserved it, you do, my friend. I think
I
that's awesome.
appreciate it. Yeah, I think a lot of what I learned early on is how I learned how to. We talked about build talent and hire and understand what that looks like to be successful. So
So it really, you took lessons from all the places you were, Best Buy, Sleepy's,
sure.
Life, and you applied them against your side hustle, and you built yourself a business that you should be very proud of, and I know you are.
Yeah,
I
appreciate that.
I want to change gears a little bit. So
Sure,
you
sure.
told me you met Kirsten at the tail end of your chemo. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah,
I
so I
know
met
she's an
Kirsten.
important part of your story.
She is. Yeah, I met Kirsten, my now wife, at the tail end of my chemo treatment. So I had already had my open chest surgery, and I was on the tail end of chemotherapy. And like I told you on the phone, the joke I used to make to my now wife is, "Well, I can't get any worse looking," because I was a chemo patient, and ironically, I'm bald now, but I was obviously bald then. And I used to make that joke to her all the time, so it was pretty funny.
Um, did your history with the illness, your experience with the illness, did it impact your relationship early on, or was that
You know what? One of the things that I learned about Kirsten pretty early was her mom had breast cancer, and not far before we had met. Actually, not there wasn't a big gap in time before we had met that her mom had cancer. So she was pretty, I don't know, she's pretty comfortable with it. I mean, she used to literally come to the hospital while I was on chemo and hang out with me and sneak me, bad food I wasn't supposed to eat and
that's
all that good
awesome.
stuff.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
so yeah, I mean, she was very comfortable with it. I mean, our first date, I couldn't even eat. I had like no appetite. So it was just kind of funny. Like she was there from the end of the chemo, end of cancer to obviously still now.
And you told me the other day with great pride, and you should have great pride, that Kirsten was an RN who worked through COVID.
Yeah, she's an emergency room nurse, and she worked. She's been a nurse for a while, but was in the emergency room and stuff like that through COVID. So yeah, she dealt with a lot of what healthcare workers were dealing with them, which was, as everybody knows now, really tough.
We've talked a lot about your persistence and your courage. How has her experience and perspective, has it influenced your own view on reliance
Yeah, I mean,
and
having a
resilience?
partner. Yeah,
Yeah.
having a partner that is, I mean, especially for what she does, like the emergency room, it's one of those jobs. No one comes there without a problem. You know, no one is coming there with a smile on their face, happy to see you. So somebody who's able to do that on a regular basis and then come home and be an amazing mother and still be happy and do all that stuff, I think is really, you know, it says a lot about a person in general.
And you've got to mention the most important work you two have done.
Yeah, yeah. We have a daughter who will be 2 in January. Her name is Kylie, and she is our little like miracle child. So, without getting into the whole story, obviously I had a lot of cancer and chemotherapy. So my poor wife, because of me, had to go through IVF and all of that stuff. So it was a long, year or so road to get that to have happen, and it was expensive, and it was mentally and emotionally draining, especially for her. And but yeah, we have Kylie, and she's a blast.
Worth every moment, right?
Oh,
Every
for sure,
moment of
for sure,
difficulty.
for sure,
That's
for sure.
that's so cool. As we wrap up here, Kenny, looking back, how did your illness change your priorities in life?
I think it. I mean, it changed a lot of priorities that I had. I think it put into perspective like family and a lot of how I always say. I said this to you yesterday. I always say, no matter how bad your situation, somebody somewhere has a situation worse than yours, which is crazy to think when you're potentially facing a terminal diagnosis. And I know that sounds crazy, and it's like kind of cliche to say while I'm sitting here now, but I genuinely believe that. I mean, I saw people pass in the hospital. I saw the worst of people's like lives, on display for me. So I couldn't sit there and just sulk, and I can't to this day think that there's not somebody out there that's challenged more than I am and more than I was. So that's for sure changed my perspective.
Last question I have for you.
Okay.
You've faced illness, you've risked it all in business, you've built a family from tough circumstance. What's the one lesson you most want your daughter to learn from her
Oh
dad's
man,
journey?
I say it to her right now, as a matter of fact, and I know she's not even 2 years old, but I'll say it to her for as long as I can get her attention. I want her to know that she can do anything. There is nothing in this world that you can't do if you don't really apply yourself. I mean, I'm in a great position right now, and I know that if there's other things that I wish to pursue in the next few years, and I know that if I apply myself, I'll do it, and I know that if I don't, I won't. So I tell her all the time. I put her to bed every night. It's my thing. I love putting our daughter to bed every night. That's my thing. And I always tell her that she can do anything before I give her a kiss and I put her in her crib. I tell her almost every single day. So I would say that that's what I want her to know.
That's beautiful, brother. And I can't thank you enough for being on with us tonight.
I
I
appreciate
want
it.
to thank you for sharing not just the milestones, but the moments in between, diagnosis, the grind, the risks, the wins. Your story is a reminder that life can change in an instant, but what we choose to do next is what defines us. And that's what I take for your story. And I
I
admire
appreciate
you,
it.
Kenny. I'm so glad we got back in touch.
Yeah,
And
me too. Me too.
I look forward to staying in touch. I
Yeah,
really do.
absolutely.
I really do appreciate it. And tell that beautiful wife of yours, I'm a huge nurse fan. My
I know you
my
are.
late
Yeah.
wife was a nurse. My son's engaged to a nurse. My other son lives with one of my other sons lives with a nurse. We
Yeah.
are big nursing fans over here.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, well, that's it for this episode of the most important podcast ever. Big thanks to Kenny Miller for sharing his story and to you for listening. If you enjoy this conversation, please share it with somebody who might find it meaningful. You can watch and listen on, you can watch on our YouTube channel and you can listen wherever you get your podcast. Please hit subscribe. It's free to you and it helps me out a lot. And with that, I want to thank the crew at Streetside Studio 7. And I want to thank the Deja Blue House of Coffee here in beautiful Alexandria, Minnesota. And we'll look forward to seeing you next time.